they can't read. they have no time to look at social media. And I guess the intelligence community, whether it's defense intelligence or CIA, is lying to them. It is all this talk about, oh boy, the war could be stalemated. And if you listen to Cavoli's testimony, I guess he did a similar version. What he did before the Senate Armed Services Committee, he did for the House committee as well. And he struck the same note, same tone that, oh yeah, boy, Ukraine's still hanging in there, man. They got a shot. And Russia's really doing poorly. Well, it's just not true. So I did a quick search to look at. I did an AI, artificial intelligence search question. Said, okay, give me the list of the towns, villages, hamlets, cities that Russia has captured in Ukraine since January of 2024. Boom, spit out a long list. When you ask that same question, but you say that Ukraine has taken inside Ukraine, you get two things. You get last August, they invaded Kursk, and they went into Russia, and the high point was in September. And then from September on, they were driven out. So they haven't been able to go capture and hold territory and, in fact, push the Russians back. They haven't pushed the Russians back at any point in the last 16 months now. And so that's one important fact. Cavoli likes to go on about, oh, yeah, man, the Russians are losing all this equipment, but admits in the next breath, but they replaced it all, and basically for every one tank we can build in the United States, they're building 30. Okay, so the reality, by any military metric you want to take, whether it is size of the army, amount of time that new recruits are allowed to train before being put into a combat unit, number of combat vehicles that are offensive in nature, whether it's mobile artillery or a tank or just a Bradley, something like equivalent to our Bradley fighting vehicle.
Right.
Across the board, Russia is dominating. So this is actually a friend of mine, Danny Davis. We were talking about it because Danny was famous when David Petraeus testified before Congress back in 2011, 2012 about, oh man, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are winning in Afghanistan. It's just a matter of days.
Right.
He was lying. And so what Danny has done is he's taken the videos of Cavoli, of Petraeus, and also got one of Westmoreland, where Westmoreland did a joint session of Congress, said, hey, lights at the end of the tunnel. We're winning. So I've come to the conclusion there must be a course at West Point where all these guys are taught how to lie to Congress.
Takeaways. Larry Johnson disputes General Cavoli's assertion that Russia is struggling in Ukraine, arguing that Russia has made significant territorial gains since January 2024 and holds a clear military advantage. Johnson highlights Russia's superior production capacity, e.g., a 30-to-1 tank production ratio compared to the U.S., and questions the accuracy of Cavoli's intelligence, suggesting possible incompetence or intentional bias. Historical parallels are drawn to past military misrepresentations, e.g., by Petraeus in Afghanistan and Westmoreland in Vietnam, pointing to a systemic issue in U.S. military reporting. Analysis. Larry Johnson directly challenges the testimony of General Christopher Cavoli, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe, who claimed to the U.S. Congress that Ukraine remains competitive and Russia is faltering in the ongoing conflict. Johnson asserts that this narrative is fundamentally inaccurate, presenting a counterargument rooted in specific evidence and historical comparisons. Evidence of Russian dominance. Johnson begins by detailing his use of an AI-assisted search to compile a list of towns, villages, and cities captured by Russia since January 2024, describing the list as extensive. In contrast, he notes that a similar search for Ukrainian territorial gains revealed only the failed Kursk incursion in August 2024, where Ukraine briefly entered Russian territory but was expelled by September without retaining any ground. This evidence suggests that Russia has maintained the upper hand in territorial control for at least 16 months, contradicting Cavoli's claim of Russian weakness. Johnson further supports his argument with Cavoli's own admission that Russia replaces lost equipment rapidly, highlighting Russia's industrial capacity. He cites a striking statistic: Russia produces 30 tanks for every one produced by the US, illustrating a significant disparity in military production. This aligns with broader analyses of the conflict, such as a 2024 report from the Association of the United States Army, AUSA, which concluded that Russia holds a strategic advantage due to its control over key territories like Donbass and Crimea, and its ability to sustain a layered defense. Questioning Cavoli's intelligence, Johnson questions the sources behind Cavoli's testimony, suggesting that the intelligence community, namely the CIA and Defense Intelligence Agency, may be providing flawed or biased information. He argues that Cavoli's failure to engage with open-source data, such as social media, indicates either incompetence or deliberate misrepresentation. This critique resonates with historical patterns of misjudgment in military analysis. For instance, a 2024 size report noted that prior to the 2022 Russian invasion, Western experts overestimated Russian military capabilities and underestimated Ukrainian resistance, reflecting a broader failure to accurately assess the correlation of forces. Johnson's assertion that Cavoli's claims are detached from reality mirrors these earlier analytic failures, though his dismissal of Cavoli's access to social media oversimplifies the issue. Military leaders often prioritize classified intelligence over public sources, which may explain Cavoli's perspective, though it doesn't excuse potential inaccuracies. Historical parallels and systemic issues. Johnson draws historical analogies to underscore his point, referencing Danny Davis's comparisons of Cavoli's testimony to misleading claims by General David Petraeus during the Afghanistan War, 2011 to 2012, and General William Westmoreland during the Vietnam War. These examples suggest a recurring problem in U.S. military reporting, where optimistic assessments obscure battlefield realities, potentially to maintain political support or justify ongoing policies. Johnson's humorous remark about a West Point course on lying to Congress highlights his frustration with what he perceives as a culture of unaccountability. This critique aligns with broader discussions on military analysis failures, such as those noted in a 2023 size report, which highlighted how poor assumptions about Russian and Ukrainian capabilities led to hesitation in supplying advanced weapons to Ukraine, fearing they would be ineffective or arrive too late. Critical examination of Johnson's claims. While Johnson's evidence, territorial gains, production ratios, and historical analogies, strengthens his argument, his analysis is not without flaws. He presents a one-sided view, focusing solely on Russia's strengths and Ukraine's failures without acknowledging potential Ukrainian resilience or strategic adaptations. For example, a 2023 size report noted that despite slow advances, averaging 90 meters per day during the 2023 summer offensive, Ukraine retained the initiative, adapting to Russian fortifications through small unit tactics. Johnson's dismissal of Cavoli's intelligence as either incompetent or deceitful lacks nuance. It's possible that Cavoli's assessment reflects a different strategic focus, such as Ukraine's long-term potential with Western support, rather than deliberate misrepresentation. Additionally, Johnson's reliance on open-source data, while valuable, may not capture the full scope of classified intelligence available to Cavoli, which could include factors like Ukrainian morale, Western aid pipelines, or internal Russian vulnerabilities. Broader context of the conflict. The discussion must be contextualized within the evolving dynamics of the Russia-Ukraine war. By April 2025, Russia has reportedly gained over 4,000 square kilometers of territory in 2024, occupying roughly 20% of Ukraine, according to the Council on Foreign Relations. This supports Johnson's claim of Russian territorial dominance. However, Ukraine has also inflicted significant costs on Russia, with over 40,000 civilian casualties and millions displaced, alongside sustained drone attacks on Russian assets. Johnson's focus on Russia's production capacity, e.g., the 30-to-1 tank ratio, highlights a critical challenge for the West, as noted in a 2024 Jamestown report, which pointed to delays in Western aid as a key factor undermining Ukraine's 2023 counteroffensive. Yet, Johnson does not address how sustained U.S. aid, over $118 billion since January 2022, has enabled Ukraine to continue resisting, a point emphasized in multiple sources. Implications of misrepresentations. Johnson's critique raises important questions about the implications of misrepresentations in military reporting. If Cavoli's testimony is indeed inaccurate, it could mislead policymakers, prolong the conflict, and misallocate resources, as Napolitano later suggests. However, if Cavoli's assessment is based on a longer-term strategic outlook, e.g., Ukraine's potential to outlast Russia with Western support, Johnson's critique may be too narrowly focused on immediate battlefield metrics. The segment sets the stage for further exploration of motives and accountability, which are addressed in subsequent segments. Summary. Larry Johnson challenges General Cavoli's claim that Russia is struggling in Ukraine, presenting evidence of Russia's territorial gains since January 2024 and its superior military production, e.g., 30 tanks for every US one. He argues that Cavoli's narrative is detached from reality, possibly due to flawed intelligence or deliberate bias, and compares it to historical misrepresentations by military leaders like Petraeus and Westmoreland. Johnson suggests a systemic issue in U.S. military reporting, questioning why such inaccuracies persist. Conclusion. Effectively highlights discrepancies between official U.S. military narratives and battlefield realities in Ukraine, with Johnson's evidence of Russian dominance providing a compelling counterpoint to Cavoli's testimony. His historical analogies underscore a recurring problem of overoptimism in military assessments, though his analysis lacks balance by not addressing Ukraine's resilience or the strategic rationale behind Cavoli's claims. The segment raises critical questions about the reliability of military intelligence and its impact on policy, urging a deeper examination of systemic biases in U.S. reporting. While Johnson's critique is persuasive, incorporating a broader perspective on Ukraine's long-term prospects could strengthen the analysis, making it a valuable starting point for understanding the complexities of the conflict.